Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Thursday Night Football fast approaching. We've got a DraftKings Showdown video to talk about this game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills. Bills favored by 8.5. Total is 42.5. Two sneaky stout defenses that we did not think were going to be extremely sneaky stout this year. Very low total in a lot of the Buffalo Bills games. Yes, they have been beaten recently by a team that we thought that they would beat. In the New England Patriots, they've been up and down. So has their quarterback, with Josh Allen not having the monstrous year that he normally has, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers performing better than most people thought that they would with Baker Mayfield under center. It all makes for an interesting game this week. We're going to break down all of it. We're going to go take a look over on DraftKings about how we're going to go about building lineups, and then how I'm going to use these rules that we talk about to mass multi-enter these large tournaments on DraftKings using the lineup builder over at Fantasy Labs. So if you wanted to join our community Discord, over 10,000 members of the Smiz gang in there all the time to talk about all the latest news that breaks, how things change. This video I record on Tuesday morning. Game doesn't kick off for 2.5 days. So if you wanted to keep up with all the latest news and information, make sure that you join the Discord, smizzle.tv/Discord. And to get access to the VIP rooms in Discord, you must be a channel member here on YouTube. Smizzle.tv/join is the easy link to go do that. It's $5 a month. Get access to all the VIP rooms, as well as my personal main slate cheat sheet that comes out every Friday afternoon to try and help you make lineups a little bit more efficiently. You don't have all the time to research because everybody has Snoop jobby jobs. I fully understand. I try to make things a little bit easier for you to be able to play and have fun on the weekends and possibly win some money. So thank y'all for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Smiz Gang Listener League is posted. It's not in the lobby though. You can't find it on DraftKings. You got to go to smizzle.tv/links. Go through the link tree. The Listener League link is in there, as well as links to everything else that I do. Find them in one handy place at smizzle.tv/links. $10 to enter, 3 maximum entries, $40,000 in the prize pool. Absolutely no rake. The best tournament that exists on DraftKings. Make sure that you get in today, and I will shout out all the winners, the top 10 finishers on the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. That link also in the link tree, smizzle.tv/links. Make sure that you enter because it's going to fill. Get in there early, often, 3 times max. Let's take a look at this slate. Obviously, the most obvious captain. I'm going to start by going over the players that I think have the most possibility of being the optimal captains. I don't talk about everybody on the slate. I'm not going to talk about, maybe I don't talk about your favorite player. I apologize if I don't talk about your favorite player, but trust me, it's not personal. I hate all of your favorite players equally. We're going to start with Josh Allen. Okay. There's 2 players on this slate that project equally at captain, although I think Josh Allen might be overplayed at captain. And that seems weird to say. Typically, quarterbacks don't end up winning. However, the unicorn quarterbacks, of which Josh Allen is one, Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, they can end up being the highest scoring player on their team a lot. So if we're going to play Josh Allen as our captain, we're going to build a group with at least 2 of his pass catchers. I'm not going to include the running back in that group. I will allow the running back to be in that lineup with Josh Allen at captain. But if he is the optimal captain, it means he probably had 35 to 45 DraftKings points, had more than enough passing yards, probably ran in 1 or 2. He is not running as much this season, especially not recently, right? He's got 2 games where he's had over 17 rushing yards in weeks 3 and week 1. Obviously, the Bills know that they have to keep him healthy. I expect as the things come down to the wire and into the playoffs, he's going to start running the football a lot more. We'll see him possibly realize those massive ceilings a whole lot more. But until then, he is still a great quarterback. 24.5 points on average, 39 point ceiling so far this year, 31 points there against Jacksonville in week 5. Tampa Bay is a stiff defense. They are tough to deal with. Good corners, very good against the run, strong defensive line from the interior to the outside. They're an inside-out sort of defense. In the past, they've been something of a pass funnel. They've kind of muted that a little. They're tough against the run, and they're tough against the pass. They're a difficult defense to deal with, hence the low total in this game. But if there's a player that can unlock that, it's very possibly Josh Allen. So if we do that, we're going to pair him with 2 of his pass catchers and the kicker up and down the board. So if you think he's going to have one of those days, these guys are going to eat also. The kicker correlates better than people are willing to admit with the quarterback. Also going to use here, we're going to go with Knox, we're going to go with Hardy, we're going to have Sherfield, all in that group to make sure that every lineup with Josh Allen at captain also has 2 of his pass catchers. However, Steph Diggs averaging more fantasy points per game on DraftKings because it's easier for wide receivers in DraftKings scoring with full PPR and 100-yard bonuses to be able to feast, right? So if Josh Allen has a big game, it's also likely that Stephon Diggs has a big game, but Stephon Diggs can also have a bigger game than Josh Allen because of the scoring method, right? Where Josh Allen has a pedestrian game. If Josh Allen has a 22, 23 fantasy point game, Steph Diggs could have a 30-plus point fantasy game. I think he is the more optimal captain than Josh Allen because of the differentiated routes for him to be able to get there. He's going to be extremely popular. If you're going to choose Steph Diggs as your captain, I'm going to make sure that Josh Allen is in that lineup. It's going to be pricey. You're going to have to find some values. We're going to talk about them past the midpoint of this video. Some values that are possibly going to be there on this slate. So on the other side of the football, we have Baker Mayfield. Now, look, they haven't asked him to do a whole lot, but assuming that every lineup that you build for Showdown, because it is such a small sample size and because anything can happen in a one-game situation, right? Like, he's been fine. He has not been like the toughest defense they faced this year, and they've faced a few tough defenses. Philly, New Orleans, very good defense. Detroit, extremely strong defense. Atlanta, for a team that's like a middling team, right? They're like, they're not the top team. They're not the worst team in the league anymore. Like, they're not a bad defense. He faced 2 kind of softies up top, although Chicago's been playing better recently. They've faced some stiff defenses so far this year, and he's done fine. Like, is there a world where Baker Mayfield, this team gets behind, Baker Mayfield is efficient while playing in a pass script sort of game where they are, 8.5 point underdogs, and maybe they have to chase all second half, but it's close enough, and Buffalo's defense isn't stifling on him that day where he throws for 370 yards and 3 touchdowns because he's forced into a situation where he has to throw like 45 or 50 times in that game. It's certainly possible. He is also a bit spry. He can scoot a little bit, not a pocket passer, not a statue guy, definitely pocket plus to mobile. And yeah, he's got enough weapons around him in this offense that they could get loose or they could do some things. So in the case, albeit the rare case, right? I'd put this at like a cap of 3 to 5% on somebody like Baker Mayfield and captain if you're building mass multi-entry for the mini-max or the big millionaire maker that they have on this slate. If you're going to do that, we have more than enough pass catchers to group with him, with Godwin, with Evans, obviously listed as a non-participant in their practice on Monday due to a neck injury. Monitor this all the way up until lock, and as always, the caveat: if Chris Godwin doesn't play, don't play him. It's pretty straightforward and simple, right? There would be some guys behind him that play, like Trey Palmer, who we're going to include in our Baker Mayfield group. Cade Otton has been basically the one that's been on the field most, running routes the most. He's an ordinary tight end, but in a spectacular sort of game that you'd be scripting for Baker Mayfield to be the optimal captain. A guy like Devin Tompkins also has ran a lot of routes situationally due to injuries, had a big game against New Orleans when he caught that 26-yard touchdown. Any of those pass catchers, that they're kind of consolidated. Again, not going to include Rachaad White in the Baker Mayfield group. And if you are projecting that sort of a game that goes around one player and not being spread around to multiple players, that would result in Baker Mayfield being the optimal captain. A guy like Mike Evans does project more as a more optimal captain than Baker. And in those lineups where I have him, we're going to make sure that Baker Mayfield is in that lineup. If he catches 8 balls for 150 and 2 touchdowns, Baker Mayfield also had at least 150 passing yards and at least 2 touchdowns on that day, and you're going to need him in that lineup, especially with the low flex cost of 9,200. The other players, same sort of a situation, being Chris Godwin if he plays in this game. I am not going to use a kicker at captain. I'm not going to put any of these super cheapies at captain. On the Buccaneers, as far as running backs concerned, both teams are tough defensively against quarterbacks in terms of DraftKings points per game. Both teams are tough against wide receivers in DraftKings points per game. Buffalo is not all that tough, or has not been all that tough against opposing running backs, allowing 24.9 DraftKings points per game to opposing running backs. So now this is the movable force versus the resistible object at this point, because Rachaad White, I think he's fine. I think the Buccaneers are a bad running offense. I don't think he's a bad player. He's certainly getting more than enough usage in the passing game. They just don't run the ball efficiently at all. They couldn't run the ball efficiently last year. They can't run the ball efficiently this year. It's just not the way that this offense is set to go. Obviously, Lenny had a good year 2 years ago. Then last year, him and Rachaad White were kind of sputtering. This year, Rachaad White's sputtering. A lot of that can fall on the offensive line. Sometimes it's a true talent of the running back situation. I think Rachaad White is better than the situation that he's in currently. And now in a better matchup, we're going to find out how inefficient is this Bucs offensive line and Rachaad White at running the football, because the way that you can exploit the Buffalo Bills defense is by running the football. So no real rules that I'm going to imply with Rachaad White here as the optimal captain. If you think that he's going to score 2 touchdowns and you're going to play him there, no real rules that I'm going to force an optimizer to go with. And my preferred running back, yes, it is a split back situation. Both are playing about 50% of the snaps. Latavius Murray and James Cook. Cook is my favored running back for the captain spot. If I had to pick one of the two Bills, Latavius Murray is limited in what he is able to do. He can score 2 or 3 touchdowns on splashes, right? Like if they get him on the 1 or 2 yard line and he jams them in there, but it's not like he's getting 100% of the goal to go carries. James Cook also getting those goal to go carries. They were split 33% with him, Damian Harris, and Latavius Murray. We've had 1 week without Damian Harris. We're going to have to reassess. I'm assuming that it's going to be 50-50 split on goal to go carries between Lat Murray and James Cook. I prefer Cook. I'm not going to be playing Latavius Murray at captain. But you know what? If you want to play Latavius Murray at captain, feel free. It's on. You can do that. You don't have to play the way I'm playing. You can play whoever you like. That is up to you. One more fringe captain. Gabe Davis is not getting enough volume predictably every single week. However, he is a big play guy. He is a big splash guy. He is a perfect player for Showdown because we know that in his locker, he has the ability to score long touchdowns. And we have seen games from him where he scores 2 or 3 long touchdowns in his career. If he can get loose against this Tampa Bay defense, behind them once early and then maybe once a little bit later in the game for 2 touchdowns, he could have that sort of game on minimum volume where he's got, I don't know, 5 or 6 targets, 3 or 4 catches, but 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. The only concern, and this is why I say he's a fringe captain, is that if he's having one of those days, it's probably more likely that somebody like Josh Allen is going to have an absolute monster day where he's throwing for 375 plus, 3-4 touchdowns, possibly adding one with his legs, which would make Gabe Davis an important flex play, but not the optimal captain. With basketball season starting, I did want to talk to you guys about the fabulous products that they have over at establishtherun.com. Use my link, smizzle.tv/ETR. Get a discounted membership to their in-season basketball packs. They have a whole bunch of different options. This is the big one where you basically get everything. You get the props package, you get the DFS package. They have a monthly pass and a weekly pass if you wanted to kind of dip your toe and try it out. If you're a sports bettor, their player props, $50 a week. The draft kit, we're pretty much done with draft season as things tip off today. The bundle, $369 a season. Get what you got to get. They've done a great job with props. They always do a great job with NBA projections. One of the best teams in the business with, I believe, the top graded in terms of like R-squared when they do all the mathy stuff behind the scenes, figure out who has the most accurate projections. It's been ETR for the last few years in terms of NBA. Go to smizzle.tv/ETR and get yourself a discounted subscription today if you are going to be playing daily fantasy NBA, because I don't do NBA content. I cannot fit it into my schedule. If you're going to play NBA, you might as well do it with the best projections out there. Let's take a look at a few of the plays that I think are going to be low owned or lower owned than all of those captain plays, who always do end up being the highest owned flex plays. But you got to find some cheaper plays that aren't kickers and defense, which are kind of like the default for everybody to go to, who also give you the possibility of having enough points to make it worth your while. Obviously, monitor injuries If Godwin misses this game, guys like Devin Tompkins at his price are going to be massively owned, as well as Trey Palmer in that mid-range. This 4 to 6K range, players in this range always low owned unless there's an injury in front of them, because they're such hit or miss players in that spot. There's a lot of them in this game. All low. These are guys that are going to play 15 to 20 snaps. You're hoping for a couple of catches. You're hoping for a big gainer. 1,000 for Deontay Harry, who is at least a part of this offense. 2 points, 7 points, 8 points, 3 points. Every week he contributes something, which in terms of Showdown is important. Every single point matters. Kickers have the possibility of having a higher floor. They also have a higher price, right? So you look up here, a kicker like McLaughlin averaging 7.5 points, as opposed to somebody on fewer snaps like Hardy averaging 4.4. But we know that Hardy has the possibility of getting us a long gain for a touchdown, which would immediately blow things out of the water in terms of Showdown. Another player we have that's injured, Dawson Knox, gonna undergo surgery on his wrist, which now leaves more routes out there for these fringe wide receivers in the offense, as well as Dalton Kincaid, who saw 8 targets last week. He's 5K. He's gonna be extremely popular, but Trent Sherfield will not. And again, with more routes available, where is he? Where did he go? There he is, 400 for Trent. Another player who's playing 10, 15 snaps per game, who could see an increase with the absence of Knox. All of those guys are going to provide you with enough value and come in at low ownership to have upside for yards, a couple of catches, and a touchdown. And like I said, for 400, if you get 5 points out of a $400 player on Showdown, you're going to be looking really, really nice when it comes down to the end of the night. Let's head over to Fantasy Labs. If you do not have an account over there, go to smizzle.tv/labs with an uppercase L. Get a discounted membership over there. They're all sports package, probably their best value for you as a player if you are a multi-sport player in daily fantasy. They have NFL, college football, NBA now that that's kicking up, NHL in full swing, as well as golf plays year round. You get projections and an optimizer for everything. Unless you are just an NFL player, they do have an NFL only package using my link, smizzle.tv/labs, uppercase L. Here's all those rules that I talked about right here on the screen for you. This is my starting point. I will edit these based on specific games, but this is my starting point for every single Showdown. And then I add in the one player that's a running back or wide receiver where projected ownership is less than 25%. If you want to make this higher or lower, that's just fine. If you want to add a secondary rule where it's going to add at least one player that's under 30% and then another one under 15% to try to get different at 2 spots in your lineup, that's going to do everything that you need it to do to try and make differentiated lineups so that when you get to the finish line, you're not holding hands with 200 people. Hopefully your winning lineup, if you're going to split, is with as few people as possible, and realize that you're not just going to click the green generate button and immediately start printing money. You do have to try and shake out your correlations, your combinations, and your allocations of the different players so that they fit the game scripts and the stories that you're trying to tell. So thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.